Welcome to Lesson 5 of Unit 5, Birds, Beaks, and Babies. In this lesson, students will work to answer the question, how do bird body parts help them survive? Students experience a bird beak buffet as a station activity to explore how different bird structures help the bird get food and survive. They figure out that animals have body parts that do different jobs to help the animal survive. Different birds have different shaped beaks, and each beak type has a particular kind of food that it is good at eating. The right kind of beak helps the bird get the food it needs to survive. In the Engage, start by asking students about their favorite foods to eat, making connections to the tools or utensils used to eat these foods. Then ask about what birds eat and what utensils they might use. Draw a beakless bird on the whiteboard and ask students what might be missing. Then use a turn and talk strategy to have them discuss if all bird beaks are the same, giving time for them to share out with the whole class. Pass out the bird beaks chart shown here on Student Journal page 14 for students to color. Ask them to predict what kind of food each bird on the page would eat and talk to a partner about their predictions. Be sure to encourage students to use evidence to support their predictions about what each bird eats. Prior to the lesson, set up the 6 bird beak stations for students, following the directions for each one. The following photos and directions are also available in Unit 5, Lesson 5 Explore, Bird Beak Station tutorial. At each station, students will use a tool to mimic a bird beak and model eating a type of food. At Station 1, put 2 of the logs on a paper plate, filling the holes with grains of rice, and place tweezers next to the logs. At Station 2, open the container of soil and plastic worms, making sure the worms are buried well in the soil. Lay the tongs next to the container. At Station 3, open the bag of seeds and pour some on the paper plate. Add pliers to each setup. At Station 4, fill the plastic container half full with tap water and add the plastic fish. Set fish nets out for scooping up food. At Station 5, fill the cylinder with water almost to the top and add food coloring if desired. Set pipettes out next to the cylinder for drawing up food. In the Explore, ask what questions they have about bird beaks, then explain that their task today is to figure out how to pick up the bird food with the bird beak at each station. Students will also need the bird beak buffet data sheets on Student Journal page 15, 16, and 17 to record their observations. The last row of boxes should be reserved for students to complete after they have visited all of the stations. In the Explain, have students turn and talk to discuss bird body parts and survival. Pick up one of the bird beaks from the bird beak buffet stations and ask students about the easiest and hardest food they try to eat with that beak. Ask them to predict and talk about the real birds with this kind of beak. Teacher guidance on types of birds for each beak is available here on Teacher page 9. After this discussion, direct students back to the last row on student pages 15, 16, and 17 to write the actual kinds of birds that have this type of beak. Pass out the Cornell Lab bird cards to students. Ask students to work in groups to sort the cards by beak shape according to what they predict the bird eats. Note that students should not look at the back of the cards at this point, only using the pictures to make their predictions. Give students these 4 food categories and time to work together to try to sort each bird into a category. As you work with students, ask them if they agree or disagree with each other's categorizations and to provide evidence for their predictions. After they have sorted all of the birds, allow students to turn the cards over and see what the birds actually eat. Make any necessary corrections to the groupings and then direct students to record the patterns that they notice about beak shape and diet on bird beaks and food, student page 18. Link this bird card activity to the bird beak buffet activity by asking students to pick a particular bird from the cards and describe which bird beak buffet station it would belong to. Then support students to connect what they have observed today back to Lesson 1 and nest building. Ask students how a bird's beak might help it build a nest for its babies. Discuss how the bird's beak shape allows it to get food for its babies, reinforcing the idea that bird baby beaks are not exactly like their parents' beaks. In the Evaluate, use the plastic bird models to ask students to predict how each type of bird might use its beak to get food. Have students turn and talk to partners about their predictions, justifying their predictions based on what they have learned in this lesson. Have students answer the final prompt here on bird, beaks, and food, student page 18. Then ask them to share their thoughts with the class. By the end of this lesson, students will identify and describe examples of bird structures and how the structures help the bird survive.